Good evening. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie. Tonight we're going to continue on our book, The Way of the Warrior, the book that I'm completely, truly enjoying. I went through our last read from last night to highlight some of my favorite parts, and I could have just highlighted the whole thing, but I had to kind of go back through and really pick out the ones that stuck out to me, because last time we read about keeping our edge, right? And so some of the things that the author had written that really stuck out to me was the fool just keeps striking and striking without paying attention to the quality of the edge, talking about their axe. The wise know that if the edge is unsharpened, more strength is needed. The war we speak of is the one that rages within. You cannot win the battle for your soul if you choose to live the life of a fool, neglecting the health of your soul and not taking time to refine who you are. What you fear also establishes the boundaries of your freedom. When we fear God and God alone, our fear is consumed in His perfect love. It is only when we love Him that His love casts out all of our fear. If you want to stop being a fool, stop loving the wrong things, right? The warrior spends their time refining their art, their craft, and their life. For the warrior, the beauty is in the details. The axe matters to the warrior. The axe is not what you have, but who you are. You cannot be made better than you are if you choose to live your life with those who would settle for less. That's so true. Wisdom understands that choices are our power. The warrior trains for the unexpected moment. They know that life is unpredictable. If you are passionate about the process and not just the outcome, that's a marker that you are on the right track. And last but not least, I'm telling you, there was plenty more, but I couldn't do it all. The warrior does not need a crowd. They need a tribe. Though the warrior seeks to be invisible, they know that in the eyes of those that matter, they are fully seen. So true. So those were some highlighted areas in our last read that really, really stuck out to me, that I just wanted to recap with us as we just recapped keeping our edge from our last video. So tonight we are going to read Code 3, The Warrior Finds Honor in Service. So I kind of marked out where I'm going to stop tonight, so it won't be too long of a video. I don't want to keep anyone longer than about 15-20 minutes, because I know we all have busy lives. So give me just a moment so I can wet my whistle. Do you like my mug? I had this in the back of my cupboard. I haven't used it in a while. It's such a big mug, so normally I use it for like hot cocoa in the wintertime. But tonight I'm using it because I missed it. Okay, let's start. Code 3, The Warrior Finds Honor in Service. The warrior lives in the paradox between service and greatness. The warrior is always first a servant. Contrary to popular perception, a life of service does not diminish the pursuit of greatness. The warrior must learn to walk with both humility and ambition. The warrior does not serve because they can lead, though they know that a person cannot lead if they do not serve. Every day for the warrior is a pursuit of excellence. In the warrior, there can be no hint of apathy or complacency. The warrior has too much honor to give anything less than their very best to their master. Every day is a competition against who they were yesterday. Ooh, I know I'm going to highlight that one for the next. I love that. Every day is a competition against who they were yesterday. The warrior is indifferent to fame, while at the same time is relentlessly pursuing greatness. They see fame as what you do for yourself, and greatness as what you do for others. Greatness is not the absence of humility, it is the absence of apathy. Just as you can be famous and not be great, you can be great and not famous. Although the warrior may gain great fame, it is never their ambition. Let fame be the food of a lesser man. The warrior pursues their legend. The warrior pursues the life they must live, the battle they must fight, the sacrifice they must make. To the warrior, greatness is not the product of ego, but of service. If you live for yourself, you can settle for less. If you live for others, it requires all of who you are. This is why the warrior never envies the greatness of others, but in fact honors and admires it. The life of a warrior is defined by this pursuit of greatness. This is their greatest act of service. There is a young man at Mosaic, our church here in Los Angeles, whom I had known almost all his life. I have worked with his father and have watched him grow into an extraordinary individual. Even as a young boy, he would come and ask me questions that would always amaze me. His inquiries were deep, thoughtful, and even provocative. So I was not surprised when he came to me again, now as a man, asking one more profound question. I expected it to be about the meaning of life or the nature of our existence. However, the question he chose to ask did catch me by surprise. Is it wrong to be competitive? Honestly, this question really threw me off, as I didn't think that anyone at Mosaic would ever ask this question. But I understand why this was a struggle for him. Shane is extremely competitive. In fact, by his own description, he loves assessing the room, figuring out who is the best, and then determining how to outdo that person. What I thought was interesting was that I had, in more than 20 years of teaching, never been implied that it was wrong to be competitive. Where did this tension come from for him? The reality is that we live in a time in history in which competition is seen as something that needs to be eliminated. Our schools are not only eliminating the designation of winners and losers, but they have actually gone as far as to eliminate scoring altogether, so that no one knows who is ahead and who is behind. We are far more comfortable with the language of cooperation and collaboration than we are with the language of competition. Our negative view of competition is often put on hold when we watch such events such as the Olympics, the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and the NBA Finals. But as a whole, we have adopted a framework that suggests that competition is archaic and iniquidated, right? Sorry, can't pronounce that word. And must be eliminated from the human story. Yet without competition, we lack the necessary context to push ourselves beyond our own capacities. Competition, when understood properly, makes you better, makes you more, makes you stronger. My response to Shane was that it was not wrong to be competitive, an answer he wasn't expecting to hear. He said, "So it's okay for me to look around the room and compare myself to others." I responded to him, "I thought you wanted to be the best." A little bit insulted, he responded immediately, "I do want to be the best." I said, "Well, when you are the best, there is no one to conquer yourself to, or to compare yourself to. So rather than comparing yourself to others, why don't you compete against you, who you are today? That way, when you are the best, you're still competing against the same person, who you were yesterday." Roger Bannister was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. He didn't have to break the 4-minute mile to be the best in comparison to others. In fact, no one in the world ever expected him to break the 4-minute mile. That barrier was perceived as impossible to cross. If he had measured what it meant to be the best against others, he never would have accomplished the impossible. When you are the best, you don't compare yourselves against others. You compare yourself against the impossible. After Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, it changed the standard for every other athlete that followed him. He changed the meaning of what it meant to be the best, and ironically, his accomplishment made everyone in his field better. Today, breaking a 4-minute mile is routinely done by world-class athletes. I think part of the unease we feel about the idea of being competitive, especially for followers of Jesus, is that we also want to be people of humility and reflect the character of Christ. I am convinced that a great part of our discomfort with the language of pursuing greatness centers around Jesus' conversations with his disciples. On one occasion, Jesus and his disciples were traveling to Capernaum. I can never say that word right on the first try. When they had arrived and were resting in a house, Jesus asked the others what they had been arguing about on the road. They kept quiet and didn't want to disclose to him that their conversation had focused on who was the greatest. I don't have to eavesdrop on that conversation to know what they didn't say. I know they didn't say that Jesus was the greatest. After all, if the 12 were talking about who is the greatest and their immediate response was Jesus, they would have eagerly revealed to him what they had been talking about when he asked. It's kind of strange, if you think about it, that they were traveling with Jesus, and when they began talking about who is the greatest, Jesus himself did not immediately come to mind. It would be like me and my team at Mosaic arguing about who is the best three-point shooter and walking with Steph Curry and not even mentioning him. Or what if you and a group of your friends were with Albert Einstein and you asked, who is the best at math? It would be strange if Einstein wasn't everyone's immediate response. How is it possible that Jesus' 12 disciples would throw out any options other than him as being the greatest among them? But they hadn't, and that's exactly why they stayed quiet. It shouldn't surprise us that a natural conversation about greatness emerged. The disciples were walking with greatness. If you were traveling with Mozart, you would inevitably talk about music. If you were traveling with Picasso, you would most certainly begin talking about art. Jesus, though, didn't inspire a conversation about a particular application of greatness, but about the essence of greatness itself. The disciples were not asking who is the greatest at a particular feat. They were asking who is the greatest in the eyes of God. This is a question only Jesus could inspire. His greatness was not the outcome of his talent or a particular ability. His greatness was about the totality of who he was as a person. Jesus epitomized what it meant to be human. He was the sum total of everything the disciples aspired to be. One of the particularly beautiful things about the true greatness is that it leaves no room for envy. Jesus did not come to diminish the greatness in others. He came to awaken it. Even when he confronted the disciples about their conversation and their desire to take the seat of honor, he did not tell them to stop aspiring to be great. He simply redirected them so that they might succeed in their pursuit of greatness. Then Jesus confounded them with words that have become well known across the world. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. I am convinced that these words of Jesus have been terribly misunderstood. They have been heard over and over again as a domination against the desire to be first. But in actuality, he never discouraged the disciples from wanting to be first. He just told them what it looks like in his economy. If you want to be the first, then you must be last. If you want to be first, you must become the servant of all. He didn't try to diminish their ambition. He tried to redirect their intention. Jesus wasn't trying to replace greatness with servanthood. He was trying to give us a new definition of greatness, which is servanthood. On another occasion, the mother of John and James came to Jesus and asked him for a favor. She knew she had come with a question and asked He knew that she had come with a question and asked her what she wanted as she was kneeling down in front of him, ready to make her petition on her son's behalf. Her request was not for herself, but rather for her 2 sons. She hoped that they would sit at the right hand and left hands of Jesus in his kingdom. I don't know if you have a mom like that, but for me, this would be an incredibly embarrassing moment. John and James were known as the sons of thunder. These 2 were rough and tough, manly men, but they had their mom go on their behalf to ask for positions of honor that they did not deserve. It would have been bad enough if your mother went to ask of Jesus something like this without letting you know, but what we discover is that her 2 sons were standing right behind her. I can't even imagine walking into the room behind my mom so she could ask on my behalf for the highest honors Jesus could give. Jesus' response had a bit of comedic element to it. He didn't answer her. He looked right at them and said, "You don't know what you are asking." He forced them to step up and speak for themselves. And then the other disciples realized what was happening and became indignant with the 2 brothers. In my experience, we become indignant when someone else asks for what we wanted. So Jesus called them all together. At first, he pointed to the examples that had influenced their perception of greatness. He said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. So not with you." Jesus wanted them to know that the most common examples of greatness in their day were being wrongly measured. Rather, he suggested, instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Jesus' words are so powerful and so well known that we often miss the significance of his entire statement. No one had ever called their leaders to serve. All of the disciples saw the greatness in Jesus and assumed that his posture of servanthood was a short-term strategy. Yet this call to servanthood is not for everyone. It's actually very specific. It's a call out to whoever wants to become great. The call to servanthood finds its power only when it is received by those who are on the pursuit of greatness. It is not wrong to aspire to greatness. The warning here is to be careful to never confuse fame with greatness. Otherwise, you may be aspiring to what is not really greatness at all. Fame is what you do for yourself. Greatness is what you do for others. Jesus has unveiled to us how greatness is achieved in his kingdom. To be great, you must serve. So don't give up on your ambition to be great. Instead, change your definition of what it means to be great and how greatness is achieved. Most important, though, we need to change the why behind our drive. The question is not whether we should be competitive. The question is not whether we should pursue excellence. The question is not whether we should pursue greatness. The question is, why are we pursuing it? Paul told us, whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. If you are to do all things for the glory of God, then there is nothing you should do where you are not aspiring to do your best, be your best, and yes, even be the best. It is in service that your greatness will be found. Jesus pressed further and once again reminded them with even harsher language that whoever wants to be the first must be your slave. Then he said, as the ultimate example of this paradox, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus is not the only greatest man who ever lived, but also the greatest servant who has ever lived. Let me repeat that. Jesus is not only the greatest man who ever lived, but also the greatest servant who has ever lived. No one has ever served like Jesus, who gave his life as a ransom for all, and no one will ever achieve his standard of greatness. Yet we too can be great if we will choose to serve and walk in the way of Jesus. And I'm going to stop there for now. We're going to pick up in the next video, and we're going to talk about unwrapping power. Unwrapping power. So, I hope you're enjoying this. I am, and I'm learning, and I'm applying this to my life. Because, I'm going to tell you something. talking about serving. I get upset a lot of the time around the house because I'm the cleaner. Okay, I'm the one that likes things clean and tidy. My husband, on the other hand, just makes a mess wherever he goes. And sometimes, especially if I'm not in a great mood, it really, gets under my skin. And I'll even say in my mind, oh, what am I, the maid? What am I, his servant? But reading this book is teaching me that I should not be complaining. Is it annoying? We're human beings. I mean, yeah, it would be annoying to have to go around and clean up after somebody all the time, especially when a lot of times they could have cleaned it up themselves. I mean, quite clearly. I mean, it's not hard. But some people just are messy. It's teaching me not to complain because I'm serving. I'm serving my husband, which means I'm serving the Lord. And so this book is teaching me stuff, and I'm applying it to my life, and I'm applying it to my brain, and it's helping me a lot. And I really, truly believe that it will help somebody else out there too. And I hope it's helping whoever is listening to these videos, that you're taking these words to heart and that you're actually really thinking about what you're hearing, about what I'm reading. This book is very profound. I can't believe it's been sitting on my shelf for months. I never really pursued when I first bought it, I also bought a book by Nora Roberts. Two totally different things. I started reading the Nora Roberts book first. Silly me. And this one took a back seat. But you know what? God's timing, it's just the way it happened. I started up this channel in the beginning of April, and one thing led to another, and now I'm reading this book for the first time, but I'm reading it to all of us. And maybe this is God's way of saying, this is when I wanted you to start reading this book. So, thank you, God. Okay, well, I'll let you go. I'm at 22 minutes. Don't want to keep you. So, I'll be back with another message when I have one. I might be doing a Bible study later on tonight. We'll see, because it's still kind of early. My husband went to bed early. Even though I'm in the messy room, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to be interrupted. This room is so messy, this front room. It's his room, so of course it's going to be messy. But I'm not going to complain anymore. Because I'm achieving greatness. Right? Okay. Well, I'm going to end this video now, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.